Conceptual plan for the renovation of the police department building. Ken?
Mayor Bukowski, members of the council, we're here tonight to make a presentation on the conceptual plans that Don Domer and Associates has developed for the renovation of the police building. In 1999, council gave direction to staff to have a space utilization plan drawn up. At that time, three alternatives were presented with costs. One was renovate an existing footprint, two was new construction to the existing footprint, and three was to build a new building. The least expensive alternative was to build a new building, and staff was given direction to do that. Since then, the police building was incorporated into the Center for Community Life and was supposed to be one of the cornerstones of that project. But that project has slowed and is shrinking. So now we are faced with moving forward with trying to alleviate some of our space problems by using the existing footprint and existing building that we have until a new building could be built as part of the Center's Community Life. Tonight here to present, well, actually the staff has sought the aid of Don Domer and Associates, a professional architect, to analyze our building and go over the problems that we exist and ways to find solutions to those problems. The main problems are the size of the male and female locker rooms. Right now, the female locker room was built in a closet, and it is not sufficient to house the number of female employees we have. The radio room or our dispatch center needs additional space. Our property room is grossly inadequate, and we asked Mr. Domer to address these issues and come up with a solution. He has addressed the problems and has developed a conceptual plan for renovation of the building, and Don Domer is here tonight to make his presentation if he can get his computer working.
Okay.
It's all yours, Don.
Almost. You just have to do Shift F something.
Well,
Or-
it's the function 7.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, they're not doing it. So if I can remember.
Why don't we take a little 5 minutes to
Okay,
check
yeah.
this
Here we go.
out?
Oh, there it
Okay,
is. Okay, cool.
I usually bring someone along, so I don't get into trouble like this.
that's a good idea.
So we set to go?
You set to go.
Okay, so the chief outlined what we were asked to do and how we got to this point. So what I'd like to do is just give you a brief background, and I was concentrating, so I hope I'm not repeating the chief. But as you know, the building was originally designed as the city hall and police department. And then after you moved to these great quarters, the police moved into the rest of the building. And it really hasn't had a thorough going over probably in 30-some years when it was built back in the 70s. And there's certain deficiencies in terms of locker rooms, but there's also deficiencies in terms of circulation, because obviously way back when it was used both ways, the police department is a secure sort of operation, so separate. So you have to go now, to go from the detective side, you have to go upstairs and back downstairs to get to the other side. So there's a number of things that we're trying to do, and I think the first thing I'm going to do is just walk you through it. You can see a couple things that just suggest it just isn't working very well, that there's a lack of storage, so in the quarters there are uniforms stored. The other is some office space, detective office space, that really needs some cubicles and reorganization and general cleaning up. And then if I can... just more spaces, just showing how obsolete it is. On the my left-hand side, there's a corridor, and it's got a copier and other sorts of things. There's a staff break room Dispatch on the left, it has enough space, more or less, just about. We're going to make it a little bit larger, but it just, again, is just obsolete, needing to be renovated. There's some toilets there that don't meet ADA. There's not a private space for the supervisor. On the left is a photo lab, which is sort of left over from film days and needs to be updated. Lockers. The women's locker space is particularly really in bad shape. It's very low. Those lockers you see in the photo are probably 7-foot lockers, so you have a 7-foot ceiling going down to about a 5-foot ceiling behind. The men's locker room is in better shape, but it's just inadequate for the number of officers and staff that use it. And you kind of see there in the photograph, they have things on the floor and not space to put away. Typical office, the offices are not in bad shape, but in some cases they're occupied by 2 people, and there's just not enough files and storage, and needs to be some more office space. More of the same, just a matter of putting some order to it. These are the existing plans, and no pointer, huh? Okay.
Use the cursor on the laptop.
I can do that. So, thank you.
I'm with you.
So on the left-hand side, we are on the ground floor, and we just, magic happened there. I'm not to touch this, I guess. So at any rate, you can see, if I can try to show you right, yellow.
Yeah, you need to.
Okay.
There's a portable one on the other side of the.
It's on the left.
And we want you to pat your head at the same
Right
time.
next to
Yeah.
the computer. Right between the computer and the thing.
Come somebody help the guy out, will you?
Okay. Okay, I'll deal with this one.
Chief critical force, ready to move forward.
Okay, so at any rate, if you study the plan on the left and you look at the yellow shape, which is detectives, you'll see again that there's no way of getting over to the men's locker room and the entry out into the parking area and squad area. And upstairs, there's just problems with the dispatch. There's some problems with ADA things, problems with circulation. So what we are proposing to do, and this drawing is maybe a little bit clearer, on the ground floor on the left, that light blue area is reorganized lockers. On the lower parts, bin, we've added more space. On the upper, we've moved the women's across the building, and again, closer to coming into the building for the female officers. Taken out those old cells, there's a few cells down there, and cleaned that up, moved the evidence, which is way too small, over in the tan area where the women's locker room was. And then open circulation through, and you can see the red arrow on the drawing there on your screen. So you can now circulate across the building without having to go up and down. And then upstairs, redoing dispatch. Right now, if you know, when you go in there, you kind of go in a little, up the elevator, in a foyer, into the dispatch. We're going to make that a little bit more straightforward and capture some of that space and use it more efficiently. Leaving the offices more or less alone, but adding some on the, across on the right-hand side. That's a very small addition that's over that second story kind of deck area. Leaving the old council chambers alone, they like that. It's a training room. It works really great for them. But taking that, if you remember, there's a kind of an open area. Probably made a lot of sense during city council meetings to go out and kind of cement your positions. Now that'll be a conference room. So I think they're going to get a lot more efficiency out of it. I understand that this is an interim solution, so we're trying to make it workable but not overexpend. And what this is an estimate that we had done in the fall, and at that point we were predicting a cost of about 1.24 million. And time has passed, so we're now saying that work is worth about 1.3 million. That, I think, is, if you look at it another way, That's about $118 a square foot, and if you look at a new building in the $300 to $500 square foot range, I think this is a pretty good value for a short-term sort of solution. Part of that's possible because the mechanical equipment was just replaced about a year or two ago. I guess they spent, I don't know, I forget, $800,000 or something on it. So that will get use out of that, and that's about where we are. There's a schedule. I think the chief is eager. Oops, excuse me. That we're now in April, and if we were to begin, if the design work began, say in May, we'd be through the design work, in for permit in the early fall, bidding the late fall, starting construction in December, being done about a year from today. Ready for
Member
questions?
Cass?
Yeah, all right, good.
If I could comment, this is a project that is overdue. We kind of went sideways when we were thinking about constructing a new building, but we spent, and the police department has spent a lot of time, energy, and money on recruiting new officers, and it's important that the physical setting be a good one so we can retain and maintain our police force. The one thing I agree with your basic premise that you have to really reevaluate how you get the traffic and the circulation moving through there. But one of the things I noticed in your slide, it's a small space for a very intense operation, and there's very poor and limited use of the vertical surfaces. And as you're designing it, I hope you would take a look at the vertical surfaces for incorporating as much storage and use as you possibly can. I hope we move ahead with this, and I hope we move ahead in a fairly rapid manner.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I just have a question for the chief. I fully support the renovation, and thank you for the presentation. But I do want to, where do you see this fitting in the broader context, the long-term, in terms of a new facility?
I think that we are going to need a new facility in the very near future, I would say in the next 5 years, mainly because we are on landfill. And 100% of our resources are concentrated on that landfill, and if the big one comes, the building will probably be standing because it's on pilings. But the surrounding area, our parking lots and the roadways, will cause us not to be able to get off the peninsula. So I think we need to get on firmer ground, get our resources on the firmer ground. But I also think that even with the renovations, we're still lacking space for locker rooms. We're lacking space for the female locker room and our property rooms. So I would think that down the line, we need to look to continue to find a spot to build a new building and have that building built. But this is just kind of keeping us operational until that can be done.
Right. I'm just one vote up here, but as you know, I've said it in the past, part of the reason you need this badly, so that's obvious, but part of the reason I support it also is because I don't, while I think that everything you just said is accurate, I also don't favor moving the entire police department to the east side of the freeway or tracks, depending upon where it ends up. So I'm hoping that we will always have a substantial force where it is now that will fit there down the road. And so I think that updating it in this way is a step towards ensuring that that's going to happen, from my viewpoint.
Okay, any other comments? Because I have some comments. I had a couple of questions. Is there any space in the fire department building right next door that could be made available, or maybe could there be some shared use of some of those facilities?
We're doing a little bit of work on the doors, you might know. So I know, and I've been into the building a number of times, but the chief always looks very cramped, and his staff look pretty cramped. He's a better person to be able to answer that.
This is the most cramped I've ever been, and I've been in actually 3 fire departments, and Don Domer is aware of one of them in Kensington. I would say that we have no meetings location. we two of our executive staff are sharing an office together. I don't see, I mean, I don't see how it can be done.
Is there any way to perhaps join the two buildings and add additional space between them without much cost? Or to add perhaps some outside patio areas for people or outside storage? I just think that it may be possible to, if you put a totally enclosed area out in the parking lot, you may have a meeting space. I mean, I'm just not sure all those alternatives have been...
Portable.
Yeah, or I'm not sure all those alternatives have been taken
In
a
other
look
words,
at.
don't stop short of getting where we need to be, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, you could have some outside storage. There's certainly a great area for outside seating if you could put an enclosed area to keep the wind out. I don't know, I just think maybe the two buildings could be connected. Maybe there could be some better shared use of some of the facilities where they would make other space available. I just want to fully examine all of the possibilities if we could, because that'd be in everybody's best interest.
What about adding some portable trailers on the land?
Land is actually,
You can add offices and meeting rooms that way.
land is pretty much at a premium right there. It's conceivable that you'd want to, I mean, I haven't explored this with either the chief of police or with Don Domer, but it would seem to me that, if you designed one building to have two functions, it would be certainly possible to put some ideas together. But land is at a premium there.
So I'd like to see if we could, I don't know if you would be the person to do that, but if we could explore some of these ideas, and, I mean, I definitely want to move forward with this. There's no doubt that this is necessary, but let's do some real exploration out there and see what we could determine.
Okay, let me understand better what their needs are then.
Okay, great. All right, I had a motion second.
There isn't really any resolution to go up, but staff is looking for direction. One is to go ahead, currently, there, in the CIP, there's about $497,000 appropriated to the police building upgrade, which would mean that there would need to be about $750,000 appropriated. In speaking with the finance director, he feels that there are redevelopment funds that have not been appropriated that could cover that deficiency at this point and fund the entire project. So staff is asking for council direction to go ahead and make those appropriations. And then secondly, to come back with an amended contract for construction drawings with Mr. Domer so that we can move forward with the project.
I mean, I certainly think we need to move forward with it, but you're saying we have funds that are available that wouldn't come from anything else, or?
So we had the most recent tax increment that came to the redevelopment agency had more than what we were projecting. A portion of that you have already allocated to the loan that was made to the school district for its facilities at Annie Yates, and there's some remaining funds that could be allocated to this project. So we're recommending that you do that and direct us to start on the design work.
Okay, is there any objection to that?
Absolutely not. Move
Okay, then
ahead.
There's no objection. Great, okay. Thank you very much.